Hello, and welcome to Reimagining Love. I'm Dr. Alexandra Solomon. I have been studying relationships for over 20 years as a couples therapist, a professor, an award-winning author, and as a wife, mother, daughter, sister, and friend. Now, I'm inviting you into this space each week as I dig into some of the toughest and most fascinating relational dilemmas of our time. If you want to discover how to create vibrant and loving relationships in your own life, you have come to the right place. This is Reimagining Love. Hi there. Here is a little bonus episode for you. I was a guest on the Sober Mom Life to chat with Suzanne Warye about intimate partnerships, particularly what happens in a relationship when one partner gets sober. Side note, Suzanne and her husband, Russell, came to visit me here on Reimagining Love to talk about their experience with exactly that topic. And so that episode of Reimagining Love is linked for you in the show notes. But today what we're offering you is a conversation that I had with her on her podcast. And there I talked with her about how the tools of relational self-awareness can be brought to navigating transitions, growing both individually and together inside of a relationship, resourcing different kinds of intimacy from within our marriage and outside of it. We talked about seeking couple therapy. We talked about taking your sexy back, especially soberly. And we talked about creating moments of appreciation designed to strengthen your relationship. Enjoy.
Hi, welcome to the Sober Mom Life podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne, of My Kind of Sweet and the Sober Mom Life on Instagram. If you are a mama who has questioned your relationship with alcohol at times, if you're wondering if maybe it's making motherhood harder, this is for you. I will be having candid, honest, funny conversations with other moms who have also thought, maybe motherhood is better without alcohol. Is it possible? We'll chat and we'll talk about all things sobriety and how we've found freedom in sobriety. I don't consider myself an alcoholic. You don't have to either. And maybe life is brighter without alcohol. I hope you will join us on this journey, and I'm so excited to get started. Hello, welcome to the Sober Mom Life podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming back. Oh my gosh, we are fresh off our Sober Mom Life retreat in Mexico, and wow, what a time it was. I'm so excited. I will be sharing a recap of that. Maybe we'll get mom on here. Maybe we'll get, I don't know, we'll do a recap of the retreat on here. It was amazing and wonderful and just really hits home how much we need each other in sobriety. And so if you are trying to do this thing alone, why? You don't have to. You can come and join the cafe. That's kind of where it all starts. And also, if you are in your first, maybe 30 days of sobriety, or if you're sober curious, any time in early sobriety, we have something called the Fresh 30. And that is a program that goes for 30 days. You meet with a small group twice a week and you get a dedicated WhatsApp. It provides more support in your first 30 days of sobriety. So this is the last call. We are closing March. I will leave the link in the show notes for you to sign up for March or to get on the wait list for April. Okay, and now today's episode, we have Dr. Alexandra Solomon. I am so excited for this. If you have ever sent me questions on Instagram or, wondered, how do you quit drinking if your partner still drinks? Like, how do you navigate these big transitions in your long-term relationship, and sobriety being one of them? Well, she's the expert. You guys, she's a relationship expert. She has 3 books, Loving Bravely, Taking Sexy Back, and Love Every Day. And she's going to share her thoughts on, everything from couples therapy to navigating growth and big transitions in relationships and Also, you know, our favorite topic, how to set boundaries in a loving way. I think you'll be loving this episode for a long time. So enjoy this episode with Dr. Alexandra Solomon. Dr. Alexandra Solomon, thank you for being on the Sober Mom Life podcast.
I'm happy to be with you.
I'm just so excited to talk to you. You have been studying relationships. You are like the relationship expert, right? On all things love, relationships, connection, everything like that. I've been like deep diving all of your work and I'm so excited. I want to just dive into it because one thing that comes up all the time when I'm talking to women who, you know, are looking at their relationship with alcohol or have decided like, okay, I'm going to do this. Almost the second thought is, okay, but what about my partner? What about my husband? Right? How am I going to do this? How am I going to make this change if she doesn't do it with me? I know you talk a lot about transitions and getting couples through like big life transitions. And I think this is one of them that really affects a lot of couples because generally, and just with the women I talk to, it's the woman, and most of them are married to men. And so it's the woman saying, I want to quit drinking. My husband doesn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work through that? And I know it's a big question because
Yeah. It is a big question. And I guess the place to start is just at a very basic level. You know, it sounds too obvious to be said, but a couple system, a marriage is a system. It's an ecosystem. The same way that, you know, if you look at a pond, you can see how all the elements of the pond are in relation to each other, you know, or the jungle, there's all these elements that are in relation to each other. A couple system is a system. And what we know about any system is if you make a change in one part of the system, you shake the system, you change the system. And it's fascinating to me. I mean, my whole career, I've been fascinated by this, is that even though alcohol is a thing that I put into my mouth and into my body.
Yeah.
It is my relationship with alcohol. But when I change my relationship with alcohol, I change every system that I am part of. And I think about how the arrow, there's a concept that I've had to develop when I'm teaching therapists or frankly, when I'm teaching the general public. I call it the recursive relational framework because I'm a psychologist and psychologists like to give things nerdy, fancy names.
I know, that sounds so fancy. Okay, walk me through those words you just said.
Yes. The recursive relationship framework goes like this. If you imagine two circles, an arrow going between the two circles. The arrow goes in both directions between the two circles.
Okay.
One circle says my relationship with alcohol. And the other circle says my marriage for our purposes here, right? So my relationship with alcohol shapes my marriage. And then how my marriage relates to my alcohol use shapes my alcohol use. So when I think about it in that way, it's like, you know, we could line up 10 women who are sharing their stories of sobriety, and they're going to have 10 different stories, about how their alcohol use was shaped by their marriage and shaped their marriage, and how their sobriety shaped their marriage and was shaped by their marriage. You know, a husband who's like, hell fucking yeah, girl. What do you need from me? Let's do it. Is different than a husband who says, oh my God, okay, I'll do it too. Is different from a husband who's like, are you sure? And what about? And why don't you? And da-da-da. And what about me? And
wow, I love the idea that you are flipping the script, right? You're changing everything and you're shaking up the system. I think overall, the common theme that I hear is like, well, our foundation was kind of started with drinking, right? When you think about dating, you guys are drinking together and this is how we've bonded. And even, you know, having sex, alcohol is in the mix and all of that. Like, this is how, and now I'm flipping the script and saying, actually, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't. For me, you can. That's fine.
Mhm.
You can, right? That's kind of how I approached it with my marriage.
Right.
And
Right.
I guess here's what I want to ask, because this is a post that I see a lot. That is like, okay, I quit drinking and I realize that my drinking was masking a lot of things in my marriage. I mean, it could even be like, I've seen a post in the Facebook group like, oh, I quit drinking and I can't stand my husband,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I think that's so honest. And there are days I can't stand my husband too, but it's not a long lasting thing. But what would you say to a woman who all of a sudden, is seeing things clearly, feeling things kind of clearly, and now she's like, wait, I realize what alcohol was kind of masking for me.
I would want her to go super slow and be really careful because
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, sobriety is, if nothing else, revelatory.
Mm.
It's revelatory. It peels back layers. It brings
Mhm.
things that were blurry into clear vision. And so it's really helpful to think about like, what was the function? Like, what was the function of alcohol? And it may have been, right, when I am drinking, I look past my husband's, under functioning behavior, passive aggressive comments. I can just kind of let them go over me. And now I can't. Okay. So then that becomes a starting point of what do you do instead? What are the new rules of engagement? What is the truth that you can share now? I think sometimes women get stuck, and we're going to just keep saying women. Sometimes women get stuck in that place of, if I feel like I can't stand him, that means something's broken in this marriage, and that means that I got to go.
Right.
Versus it may mean that marriage 1.0, needs to be blessed and let go of.
Yeah.
And then you get to explore what's possible in marriage 2.0. And listen, marriage 2.0 happens. I mean, a lot of my clinical practice is alcohol off to one side. It's women in midlife who are like, midlife is also revelatory.
Yes.
Empty nesting is revelatory. There's a freaking ton of revelation that happens there. Alcohol and no alcohol. We are forever in these transitions being like, oh shit, I could look past that when there were kids in the house, when I didn't have this menopausal brain that actually has no more F's left to give, but I can't now. And so that does initiate a kind of crisis, and not every couple can move through the crisis together, and not every marriage can go through that. But I think we underestimate the possibility because it's so freaking vulnerable and it's so scary and it's so new.
So true. And when you said not every couple can, I think that's the hard part, like, because marriage is work, right? You have two complete people, complete systems, and now we're putting it together to make a new one. And then it's just work. Like my husband and I have worked on our marriage so much, right? It's just work. How do you know when it's hard work that is good versus you're working hard and it's not? I hear from so many women and they're struggling with this thing. Like, I'm growing, I feel like maybe he's not. And I know we don't grow at the same level, but how do you know?
I think the best way to know is to really pay attention to your side of the street. And I do think that I think whenever we step into, like, my Lord, I think about how insufferable I was when I started doing CrossFit, or when I stepped into sobriety. Like there can be like kind of an insufferability about like, oh my God, you guys, I have this thing. It's a new way. We can get like a little evangelical.
Or like being vegan.
Yes, sure. Right. And it comes from a place of enthusiasm and it comes from a place of love, but it oftentimes comes from a place of control.
Yes.
And it comes from, I don't know how to be with you if I'm not the same as you. I think especially as, as girls, we grow up. Like I think about how often I had like matchy with my friends when we were little, like I think that we oftentimes as women especially equate sameness with intimacy. Like we have to be the same to be close. And so I think sometimes that like fervor that newly sober people or newly CrossFitting people can take on, newly vegan people, that fervor is like, stay close to me. And the easiest way to stay close to together is to be the same. And so I think even if she's saying to her husband, you do your thing, I'm on my journey, I would want her just to be watching the comments, watching the,
Mm-hmm.
just being mindful of, are there ways that she's conveying to him, I've not just chosen a different path, I've chosen a better path. Because what I know from 30 plus years of sitting with mostly straight couples is that husbands anchor their sense of self-worth on how they look in their wife's eyes. And a husband who feels like he's not measuring up goes into all kinds of gnarly ass places. It's not on her to be his perpetual like self-esteem
cheerleader
boosting guy.
Yeah.
But I will say that then he starts, if he feels like the messaging is you are less than because you still drink, then he pulls back, then he undermines, then he retreats, then he gets a little bit childlike. And now she's even feeling more icked by him.
Right. And then they're even more and more disconnected, more and more just missing each other. That's so interesting because I'm thinking about that in my marriage, and my husband quit drinking and he was on his own thing. But even just, how I can tell when he's feeling less than or something, how that comes out. And what is my role to make sure that I'm not his cheerleader, but I'm also not like adding on to that of like the badgering and the pointing out kind of stuff.
I think sometimes the badgering and the pointing out is, listen, I'm not feeling super anchored in my own sobriety. So I'm really sensitive to your comments, your behavior. So is there a more vulnerable way to come into that conversation of, I'm noticing that when you drink, I feel X, Y, and Z, or I'm noticing that I really need a lot of affirmation from you around this. Like part of me believes I should be able to celebrate my sobriety on my own, but part of me also really could use you talking to me about how proud you are of me. Whatever it is there a more vulnerable way to come in?
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned like the best friend necklaces, and that's that's so true that when, growing up and even like as adults, right? And women and how we connect. You like this yoga? Oh, I like this yoga too. Let's do this together, right? I don't really consider my husband my best friend. What's your take on that?
Oh, I think it's such an interesting question. And here's what I love most is that those of us who are, a little older, I grew up with the idea that you have a best friend. Like you have one best friend.
One, yes.
She's in that spot and everybody else knows she's in that spot. She's your maid of honor. Right. She's your best. And everybody else is like, fine.
But they're like friends.
They're totally like, fine.
They're friends, but not the best friend.
But they're going to have to go find their own best friend because they can't be ours.
They can't
we already
have our necklace. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. What I love, because I teach at Northwestern and I'm the mom of Gen Z college age students, they'll tell you about their best friend. And then a minute later, they're telling you about their best friend. And a minute later, and they're all different people.
Oh, they're like all best friends.
Oh, they have like 5 best friends.
So it's not like a superlative.
No.
Like you've been awarded this position. It's just, okay.
There's a bunch of them that are best. It's the cutest damn
different
thing
roles
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's the same term. It's not, and they don't even say one of my best friends. They just say my best friend, but they're talking about a bunch of different people. So they're polyamorous in that way,
Yeah.
and everybody can be a best. And so I wonder then if that generation will also talk about their spouses as their best friend.
That's
because they just have more room.
Yeah, it's not this like scarcity placement kind of mindset. I love that idea because, okay, fine. He's one of my best friends. I will say one then. I'm still not going to say best friend, but I was getting my hair cut this morning and she was talking to me about anywhere I go and people start talking, we start talking about alcohol and sobriety and people open up to me and I love it so much because I love being able to talk about this thing that we haven't necessarily been able to talk about. And she was like, because I just can't talk to my husband about it. Like he doesn't get it. Right. And I think that that's such an interesting thing. It's like, I didn't really talk to my husband about how I felt about my drinking, how I felt about my sobriety. I did seek out other women and other moms who were going through that because I wasn't kind of looking to him to fill this thing for me. I wanted to connect with, and maybe it is this kind of likeness, like okay, I see myself in you. You were here before I was. Show me the way, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And he can't give that to me. I mean, it kind of ties into a lot of best friends, right? Because they're all fulfilling different roles of,
Yeah.
okay, my husband's not going to be the one that I'm going to gossip with. I've tried, and he sucks.
Right. The men, I did a Axios piece a few months ago. A guy, he's really a cool guy. He's a gay man in New York, and he's like, I want to write about why men suck at gossip. I was like, oh,
Like, so
wait a minute,
yes.
they do, and I was like realizing like they do, and it was so fun to look at all of the reasons why. But yes, anyways, go ahead.
Yes, no, they completely do, and I think for me, and not like mean gossip, but I think gossip is a way to connect, right? Like not anything, I don't know, not anything horrible or mean, but just like even celebrity gossip or whatever it is. That's how my friends and I like connect, right? And my husband is not going to do that with me. And so then I don't even try.
You've stopped trying.
But I like this idea that there are just different roles, and I guess I don't look to him to fulfill every single role. And that to me is what I was like, okay, well, he's not my best friend. I'm not going to go to him with every single thing.
Yep. I was interviewed by the New York Times about this very question of best friends. And so I told the New York Times that Todd is not my best friend. And then Todd read the article. He's like, what the hell?
He's like, he rips off his necklace. He's like, I guess I'm not wearing this anymore.
Right. He was like, well, I wish you would have told me before you told the freaking New York Times.
He's like, I would have been out here looking for a best friend then.
Honestly, I didn't know I was not. I thought I didn't know I was unemployed.
Yeah.
But I have the same notion that you, I mean, very similarly, like there are things. I have actually the best friend. Her name is Allie, and we've been best friends since we were 10.
Yeah.
And so he can't, like he actually can't be my best friend because she is. There are things that are really, really important for me to talk about with Todd. And it's not about vulnerability. It's not even really about intimacy, but it is about different qualities of intimacy. And I think there's something that is so intense about the journey of being a girl and being a woman. And as there is the journey of being a boy and being a man, I want every man to be in deep, rich, fulfilling conversation and friendship with other men, because there are parts of the journey of a man that a woman can't understand. But yes, I know with alcohol, it's really important to have other women, because there are, I mean, you in your book and in your work have done a really beautiful job of talking about the intersection of gender and alcohol use. And so the reasons that men drink, the consequences of men drinking are not the same as the reasons that women drink and the consequences of women drinking and the cultural messaging. And so I think that community of women is really vital. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And as you were talking, I was thinking, I feel like maybe the best friend thing is a woman thing. I don't think I've heard my husband be like, he's my best friend.
Oh yeah. Right. Because there's a vulnerability. There's a vulnerability even in
maybe
declaring
like
the best friend.
He would say he's my friend. Yeah, we're friends, or my good friend, but not like he's my best friend, right? I don't know.
That's true. I refer to Ari as Todd's best friend, but I don't know that Todd refers to Ari as his best friend.
Same. Like I don't think I've ever heard Russell say he's my best friend. I don't think, maybe guys just don't think like that generally. Okay, I want to like touch on your books. Tell me what it means to love bravely.
It is a commitment, really, that we make to ourselves to be forever students of ourselves in our relationships, to look at our own like activation and irritation. It's so easy in a marriage, especially in a marriage and a long-term partnership. It's so easy to place our frustration at our partner's feet. And it actually takes there's a set of skills that we have to be able to hold up that mirror and lovingly, gently, compassionately look at all of the patterns and the blind spots that we bring into intimate partnership, which does not mean that we suck. It just means that love is incredibly activating, and that the happiest, healthiest, most thriving relationships are the ones where people are willing to be curious about how love is stirring them up moment to moment in an ongoing way.
Oh, so true. And do you think is therapy required in that?
There are times when I just had the experience not too long ago of starting a couple therapy with a couple who's been married for 25 years, and I'm their first couple therapist, and I'm like, y'all just been out there doing this,
just raw dogging marriage. Jeez.
Right, just out here in these streets, just loving each other without
right. Wow.
My Todd and I saw a couple therapists like before we were even married. Like we did premarital couple therapy, which I think, obviously I'm on one particular end of the pro therapy spectrum. But I think very often couples wait until things are pretty dire.
Yes.
Lots of my couples are coming in after infidelity, entering the empty nest phase, entering the we're having a baby and it rocked our world phase. There's oftentimes a transition, either normative or extraordinary, that has been like the straw that breaks the camel's back. But I also love it when couples come in and they're just like, I don't know, we haven't done it. We are in our own therapy. We feel like I think the best case for it is this investment we're making matters so much, and we now have 50 years of research that just reinforces the notion that the quality of our relationships is a massive determinant in the quality of our lives. So if we're going to hire a yoga teacher or a money manager, how do we not hire a couple therapist,
Oh man, that's such a good point. And there is this sense of, because my husband and I were in couples therapy, I think shortly after I had my first baby, which is like a huge transition, right? And we were like, oh, well, what did we get ourselves into, kind of? And it did feel like it saved our marriage. Like it was, it was like,
wow.
it was kind of like a 2-year journey of like, we are committed to this, but we got to fix something. There was something to be fixed, right? And it felt like maybe the house wasn't on fire, but something was on fire and we didn't want the house to be on fire. And then there tends to be this sense like, well, everything feels pretty good, right? And going in, and my mom's a therapist and I love therapy and I just am, that's just how I'm wired, is like, let's talk about everything. But there's a sense of like, I don't want to rock the boat if we're good, because we know therapy can bring stuff up, even if it's stuff that we need to work on, right? But it is like, no, but it's good. But then it's like, how do you find that sweet spot? I don't know.
Right. Well, one thing I talk a lot about is advocating for what we call a dose-based approach to therapy, which is the idea that you, just like you and Russell did, you did a dose of therapy around the birth of your first child. It lasted a couple of years. You stepped away, but then you can do another dose, down the road as the next baby comes along, as there's a job change, as there's a sobriety shift, that we can do these, we can pick up and put down that tool. And it's one of my favorite things about being, a seasoned clinician at this point, is that I have those couples and I have those clients who are with me for a while. We explore, some people call it a tune-up. I don't think it's a tune-up. It's really a revisiting of what is alive for you in this season, because every season of our lives awakens pain and wounds and activations from the past all the way back to our childhood. So even if, I'm now dealing with an aging and ail mama, and I'm really struck by the ways in which it kicks up really like childhood stuff for me. I'm 52 years old. She's 82 years old. And I'm really in touch with old pain, old yearnings, nostalgia, like also the really positive. So it's not like, even if we do really wonderful therapy where we understand the particular landscape of our wounds, of our family of origin roles, of our coping strategies, even if we get a really good template and understanding of that, that's wonderful. That's helpful. But these transitions and these experiences, expected and unexpected, will still call us back to that old landscape. And we'll be asked to kind of revisit it again. And we need somebody else to do it with us. We can't, I'm real good at helping other people with their stuff, but I need someone to help me with my stuff, So
Yes.
I think for those of us who've been kind of hyper independent and do it ourselves people, this stuff you just can't do it yourself. It needs to be done in community.
Well, and it's like what you were talking about before, the blind spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also can't point out our partner's blind spot because that doesn't work.
That
you
never
do that.
In history has that gone well.
No. Hey,
this
I don't know
sounds a lot
if you
like
knew
your
this,
father.
but I don't know if you see this, but I see it very clearly. That right. That's generally not going to work.
You know what else doesn't work on that subject? It also doesn't work to go to your own therapy, talk about your husband in your own therapy, and then come home to that husband and say, my therapist and I figured out that you are, I just had this happen this week. And there's, the first thing I said was like, listen, there's a research study that came out last year that showed that they surveyed people who are in individual therapy, and over half of those people reported that their individual therapist had made a relationship undermining comment about the spouse who wasn't even in the room, was not a client of the therapy, about your partner sounds avoidant, your partner sounds like a narcissist, your partner, at least that was these people's report of what the therapist
so then that's what they heard, right?
Right. Exactly.
If the therapist said it that way or not, that's kind of the message that they're getting.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's a red flag if you're in individual therapy and you're talking about do you talk about your marriage in individual? How do you do that in individual therapy?
I would strongly encourage you to talk about your marriage in your individual therapy. But if your therapist then gets hyper-focused on your spouse, that's the red flag. And listen, I also work with individuals, and I get it. When you're somebody's individual therapist, at least when I work individually, I'm that person's ride or die.
Right.
I'm in your corner. I'm loving you. I'm cheering for you. But it's my job as your therapist to really check my blind spots and check my assumptions. And I will often say out loud, I wonder what your partner would say if they were in the room with us right now. We have to, it's the job of the individual therapist to keep a relational frame, even when there's only one person in the room. So yes, if you want to talk about your spouse in therapy, you can. But what you got to say to your therapist is like, our job is to help me figure out why I'm acting this way. What's my part? What's my role? How can I behave differently? And let's just see if that can invite something different from my partner.
And do you have ever, because I know then you wouldn't do marriage therapy. If you're seeing someone individually, do you see their spouse sometimes together, like on a one-off, or not? Is it not that helpful?
I could do a one-off.
Okay.
For sure. And that sometimes is helpful, but I'm really clear with that client why we're doing this session. It's called like a guest session. Why are we doing the guest session? What's the intention? And it has to be something more than just, I'm super curious. Like, who is this?
Like,
we have to have a therapeutic.
Yeah, what does he look like?
Yeah. What the heck? What is going on?
Who is this?
So we have to be really clear on what our intention is, even down to like how the client's going to invite their partner in. But it's a door, that only swings one way. So we can transition from individual therapy to couple therapy, but then we can't be sliding the door back and forth.
Right.
And lots of times it doesn't work because the second spouse into the relationship never quite feels like it's their space.
That makes sense. They kind of feel like the outsider. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And there's lots of good therapists. So then I would see it as my job to help this individual client find a really good couple therapist and start that works. And then you coordinate between the therapeutic team.
Then the therapists talk. Oh my God. You guys, don't you want to be a fly on the wall for that conversation? For the therapist? Yeah, that's
another whole thing.
Totally. Okay. You mentioned overall kind of what men come in feeling, right? Like when they are feeling lacking or whatever. What would you say you see for women? Like, what is, like, overall, what complaint do women have? Or I don't know if complaint's the right word.
I think a very common cycle is that she's surprised and confused that he needs as much kind of affirmation and boosting up because her experience is I'm invisible. I'm invisible. I don't matter. You take me for granted. You don't see me. You don't respect me. You don't value me. When all the while he actually is in bumbling or ineffective ways trying to please her. But he's trying to please her without really asking, what do you need to be pleased? What does support actually look like? He's doing things that he thinks are supportive that, that she's missing, that don't make sense to her, that don't feel supportive. So that's oftentimes, it's oftentimes her sense of invisibility.
Oh, so universal, so relatable, right?
Mm-hmm,
Especially like as moms and like everything that we're tasked with and how heavy this like invisible load feels, right? And it's like it only goes noticed when the laundry's not done, right? And like how does that all that's so relatable. Okay, I want to talk about taking sexy back.
That's my middle child.
Your middle child. We love the middle child. Like that middle child is a special one. Okay, tell me how to take sexy back.
Yeah, right.
45, mom of 3, tired. What? Yeah.
Right. What are we doing here?
Oh.
This book was born from, when I was writing Loving Bravely, I wrote one, Loving Bravely is 20 lessons of self-discovery. And so one of the lessons was about sex, but I was like, oh shoot, I have lots more things to say about sex. And so I kind of knew, even as I was finishing up my first book, that that's what I wanted to explore next. And so it was really, the process was really beautiful. I worked with a team of grad students and undergrad students, and we did all this research and looked at just the crappiness of American sex education. We looked at religious messaging, basically all the ways in which we as women come into our sexuality from the outside in. We are told, we're given this like razor's edge that we walk between being a prude and being a slut, in our early years, in our adolescence. And when you come into your sexuality in that way, you don't really ever have an inside out experience of what it means to be sexual, for sex to be a place of expression and connection. Sex often feels like a place of performance or a place of duty or a place of danger. Like, how to do enough that people think you're cool, but not too much that people are judging, it's
that
just
you're labeled.
Yeah. And it's an invitation to really look at sex in a complicated way, because at one level, it's a behavior, it's a thing we do. But at the very same time, it is a place where we express the most elemental questions about what it means to be alive. Am I okay? Are you with me? Do you see me? What do I get to have? What am I entitled to? What are the risks and benefits of letting go, of surrendering, of expressing? So it's a guide to it's basically couple therapy between a woman and her sexual self, which in the book, we call it your sexy, like capital Y, capital S, like it's your sexy. This is your sexual self. Like, who is she? Do you even know her? How's she doing? What's she needing?
And I feel like, you mentioned religion, and I grew up, I don't know, it sounds weird to say, but definitely religious. It sounds weird because it's not how I'm just coming to terms in real time. You can tell. And there was a lot of shame and guilt around sex. And yet men who really did kind of weaponize it and take what they wanted, right? And then I was the one left feeling the shame. Couple that with alcohol, and alcohol plays such a huge role in my sex life in college and in my 20s, and really whether that's drinking enough to feel okay to have sex, or drinking enough so that I didn't care, so that I could have sex because that meant acceptance. And then the next morning, the walk of shame reserved for me, right? That he wasn't feeling shame. It was me. What is wrong with me? And so there's so much tied into that. And I think, I'm grappling with that now as a sober woman of almost 6 years, happily married, attracted to my husband, right? And this is what we've kind of been working on in the past couple of years is like, okay, alcohol was a big part of our dating and our sex life, right? And then kids. And now it's like, okay, it's exciting, but then it's also, I have this stuff in me of there's still this kind of shame piece of it. And this like, it's dirty or it's not okay. Right. And so, yeah, it is so complicated.
And it's something that I'm so glad that you address in your work, because the connection between alcohol and sex is, I mean, as you're saying, it's so strong. And sober sex is a whole different ballgame, right? Like
and
whatever.
It can be so scary, and it's so weird to be scared when you're, and I've talked to so many women about this. It's like even sex with your husband, you're a little like, oh God, I'm awkward. I don't know what to do. And I've been having sex with this man for 12 years, right? But now it's just me. There's nowhere to kind of hide. And
there's no kind of
there's no blurring.
Softening of the edges.
Yes.
My favorite research that I came across in working on the book was this gal up in Canada, University of British Columbia, Lori Brotto. She basically took this finding that nearly half of us women have, what they call like hypoactive sexual desire disorder, like where we just don't want sex. There's like not a lot of desire there. And it's, if half of us are experiencing it, that means it's normal. And rather than pathologizing half of us, let's maybe check in about what's not
going
feeling
on.
Yeah, like what's feeling not particularly compelling about sex. And anyways, she in her research was like, oh, one of the things that's happening is that her mind is freaking everywhere else. Not just on the laundry and the to-dos, but what's my tummy doing right now? How do I look in my husband's eyes? Are my boobs weird right now? Like
I've had 3 kids.
Right. This stuff is not
it's
sitting
different.
The way it used to sit. And so part of what alcohol does, I mean, alcohol is a focusing agent, right? So it can focus you, it can quiet the shit for a moment. And so as you step into sober sex, what else do you need? Well, Lori Brotto is there to tell you that she basically did mindfulness training. She wasn't working with women around alcohol use per se, but she was working with women around, okay, if what's happening is that we are distracted, hypercritical, scattered, chatty inside of our own heads. And of course, like who wants an experience where you're going to be like laying there tormented by your thoughts?
Right.
So she's like, what if I helped them learn to focus and learn to quiet? So she did mindfulness training with these women. And the findings of her study is like increased lubrication, increased desire, increased orgasm, increased relationship satisfaction, like a powerful set of findings. So rather than a woman letting go of alcohol and just white knuckling sex with her husband, what does she get to create for herself instead? How can she use mindfulness, regulation strategies, music, candle, context? Like how else can she soften and quiet and focus the experience for herself? I think as women, we do a really good job gritting it through just about anything. But sex is a place where we deserve to be gentle, creative, supporting ourselves, and where we really need that. We deserve it and we need it.
Yeah, we deserve to feel good. And that release, that's always kind of like the thing about the guy is like he needs to release. It's like, well, we need to
we need to release.
I'm fucking stressed. Like we need that too. Yeah. Right. And so, as I always want to make sure that I bring up, because it can be very from uncomfortable to terrifying to have sex as a sober woman with a man who's been drinking. And so that can be a very clear line in the sand if that is a no-go. Like that could be the first boundary that you set in sobriety, right?
Absolutely. And it is a really loving boundary, because if something else I learned in my research is that we all, as women, we really do have wired into because even if we are not trauma survivors of ourselves, to be a girl and to be a woman is to be trauma adjacent. It just is. There's generations and generations of sexual trauma baked into our DNA. If it wasn't us, it was our grandmas, it was our great grandmas.
And so we feel
have
that we operate
yeah,
from that place.
Yeah. And so we have that kind of like alarm system, that tightening, that shutting down, that I'm not safe. And you're so spot on that a sober man, a man who's been drinking, even if he's our loving husband,
and even if it's just
moment,
a couple of drinks too, like it's not, I'm not even talking about drunk, right? But if it's that smell, if it's the taste, if it's a little off, like I think we're so, as sober women, we can be so cognizant and aware of if someone's been drinking, right? And then that's so lovingly set a boundary.
Yeah. The boundary isn't a rejection of him. It's saying, actually, our sexual relationship is so freaking important that it deserves to be protected at all costs. And so if you make that choice to drink, like no harm, no foul, like you do you, but it's not going to be good for our marriage for me to be intimate with you. Because in order to be intimate with you, I have to override a whole set of alarm bells inside my head. And in overriding those alarm bells, I'm numbing myself, and it's just not good for either one of us, actually.
Yes. And so that's how you would approach him. You would say it like that.
Yep.
Wow. And to think about that, we do have to override that, just like the DNA. I mean, that already we're kind of starting from less than zero, right?
Yeah. And I think that's something that a sober woman is really well positioned to do, is to notice what you're overriding. And to slow down. I think that there's oftentimes a need to just really reset and rebuild your sexuality in sobriety, post-trauma. Like there's lots of times post-baby, like there's lots of times where we have to reset and rebuild our sexuality, which is the coolest thing about our sexuality is our sexuality is like, cool, I'll do that. I mean, our sexuality is just like, I believe, infinitely available energy that we can always tap into and sculpt and shape and hone and use for our highest good. But after something as big as sobriety, you gotta do some baby steps. And so maybe it is just like a makeout, and now it's a makeout and a dance, and now it's a makeout and a touch. Now it's we lay together naked and we breathe together. Like that's the cool thing about sexuality is it's a big, big, big menu of things that you can do and be creative with and stretch, like regulated stretches where I'm stretching, but I'm still here. Oh, okay. I just slipped away, pause, come back to basics,
Yeah. Okay, you guys, you everyone read Taking Sexy Back. Is that what it's called? That's what it's called, right? Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay. Okay, now tell us about the newest child, the youngest child in the lineup, Love Every Day.
The baby. The baby's the prettiest one.
Oh,
She's real pretty.
She's very pretty.
So this is Love Every Day. It is a 365. I've always loved a 365, just like a little dose of, it's like an advent calendar where you just get a little piece of chocolate every day of the month.
And a little treat.
Just a little treat every day to support you, to support your relationship. It is, I've heard so many beautiful stories since it came out about couples who, keep it at the dinner table and read an entry at night, or keep it on the bedstand, and you don't. It's not an obligation. It's there for you every single year. And it's just reflections on what I call all my work is about relational self-awareness, understanding who we are in our relationships. And so oftentimes there's a discussion question, a reflection, a journaling prompt, and exercise, all designed to help you explore boundaries and sex and communication and trust and how the past, shapes how you experience your partner, and the impact of gender on what each of you expect and want. And it is written in a way that's supportive of people of all genders and all relationship stages. It's a super handy book.
That sounds amazing. I'm going to put it on my nightstand. I'm getting it, and my husband and I we're doing it like homework tonight. No, I'm kidding. It's not
right. I'm like, every single night.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm taking attendance. Are you doing this? No, that sounds amazing. And that leads me into just one question. I'm just thinking about my life, and it's so, as with all of ours, it's just, there's so much. There's 3 kids going every way. And my husband and I are like ships in the night being like, hey, how are you? Right? What's maybe just one prompt that couples can use tonight or over coffee or on a walk or something, just like kind of quickly, like you have in your book, to connect in a deeper way than just like hey, how was your day?
Well, I'm a huge fan of appreciation. I'm a huge fan of, so when I oftentimes assign this to my couples in therapy of just like, having these moments of appreciation, because in order to appreciate something that your partner has done or something that your partner is, you have to notice, and it's so much easier, to your point before about the laundry. It's so easy to notice the laundry when it hasn't been done. We're just hardwired to notice the negative stuff. And so when a couple sets an intention that at dinner tonight, we're going to each share an appreciation. Okay, well, now today you got to be keeping your
I'm
eyes
gonna
open.
look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And I
Oh, I
think that
love
it's,
that.
and I think for those of us who aren't real comfortable asking for affirmation or receiving affirmation, I think that's a really lovely practice to receive it, to like have your partner say it and then take it in, because so often we say, oh, that's not a big deal.
Yeah. No,
so
that's
then,
nothing.
so the practice of receiving goodness, which lots of us need some work on that part.
And I love that because it scratches both of the itches, right? His of not feeling good enough, lacking, and hers feeling invisible. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and listen to your amazing podcast and all of the things?
Yeah. Podcast is Reimagining Love, and Suzanne and Russell were recent guests on the show.
Yeah, go
so
listen
fun.
to ours. We'll share it in the show notes too, you guys. And we'll share it far and wide too. So you can hear us.
Yes. My website is dralexandrasolomon.com, and you can find me on Instagram with lots of daily content, dr.alexandra.solomon.
Great. Okay, everybody, go follow, go support, go listen. Dr. Alexandra Solomon, thank you so much
Thanks,
for being
Suzanne.
here.
Oh, it was so fun. So fun to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Sober Mom Life. If you loved it, please rate and review it wherever you listen. 5 stars is amazing. Also, follow me on Instagram at The Sober Mom Life. Okay, I'll see you next week. I'm going to go reheat my coffee. Bye.
Do you have a relationship question that you want answered on the show? Visit reimagininglove.com to send in a written or audio question. Questions can be about intimate partnerships, family relationships, friendships, you name it. If you're looking for more love and relationship content, you can find me on Instagram at dr.alexandra.solomon, or visit my website, dralexandrasolomon.com, where you'll find my blog as well as the Intimate Relationships 101 e-course based off of the popular class I teach at Northwestern University. Thank you for listening, and see you next week here on Reimagining Love.